I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine by the name of Rob Peters and the importance of our ride or die queen, best friend, wife in our life. Michael McLean, badassletter.com. Immigration is open. If you would like to subscribe to the upcoming September edition, you need to take care of that today at badassletter.com. If you haven't bought a copy of my book, you can do that now at noblebook.com. I'm sure Marc-Andre will put those links below. So, true story today about my friend Rob Peters. Rob is was my corporate salesman for the Blue Wings when I owned my hockey team. He worked for me for 3 years. And a belly, one of the old school. He's 55 years old. He's been married for 31 years to the same woman. He's got 2 incredible children that are in university or college. He's ran several successful businesses, including a pub for 30 some years in our area that was one of the most successful restaurants, which is a hell of a tough business, as you know, in our region for like 30 years before selling it to somebody else. And then he started up a delivery company, a commercial delivery company, where he delivers for companies like Amazon. He'll help out, FedEx or Purolator. He'll do these types of things, but he delivers over 300 parcels per day. He's got 3 vans on the road. He's got 2 employees plus himself. And he's one of these guys who's got an incredible strong work ethic. And he also is a great family man, extremely loyal to his friends and family. And he's one of these guys that I really, I can relate to because he reminds me of a younger version of my dad in terms of salesmanship. He's a proud salesman. And he reminds me, like when I hired him to work for me for 3 years, his job was to sell the rink boards, the game sponsors, to create a program, to hand out to people. His job was to bring in money for the team. Some of these are big accounts, $10,000 seating sections, $2,500 boards, ice logos, $3,000. And he did it all door to door, eye to eye, belly to belly. He didn't do any of this, hiding behind an email or a letter or a text message like you see so many of the sales candy asses today. Like you'll see car salesmen and real estate salesmen, insurance salesmen, and sure, they call themselves a salesperson, but they don't do any prospecting. They don't do any marketing. And if somebody walks in, well, they'll try to sell the thing. But those guys are tomato cans. I mean, Rob Peters is a top 1%er. I found him, guys like him, belly to belly, that knock on doors. This is all cold calling, by the way. This is balls to the wall cold calling in our community, where he knocks on a door of a small business owner and says, would you like to be part of sponsoring the Blue Wings this year? So a lot of rejection, a lot of grit required, a tough job, and he's a tough guy. So we worked together for 3 years, and he generated tens of thousands of dollars in revenue for our team. He's another guy. I don't think we would have won the Barclay Cup in 2019 without the revenue that he brought in. Like we use that revenue in trades. We use that revenue to purchase the playing rights to players outside of our region. We use that money for equipment, all kinds of things. So he was another piece of the puzzle. And championship work ethic, championship mental toughness, and he was one of these guys. I remember the night we won the Barclay at Center Ice in Ottawa, and I'll never forget, I handed him the huge trophy, and he grabbed the trophy and he put it over his head. It was like the Stanley Cup. And he put it over his head, and I was just like, there's a guy that's got obsession and passion with whatever he's doing. And he lifts this cup up in front of the players. And honest to God, you would think he was one of the coaches. You would think he was one of the athletic trainers. He was that passionate. You wouldn't think he was the corporate sales director. That's the love he has for that team. And that reminds me, like, just that, I also have a soft spot for guys and gals that had really difficult backgrounds because of my dad's story, where my dad was, an orphan and abandoned at birth. And my dad was given every excuse under the sun to make a mess of his life, to say, well, I never had any role models. I never had any mentors. I never had anybody that showed me the way, and just piss away your life. And my dad looked around and said, I don't want any of this, and did the exact opposite. To me, that's badass world building, where you use that as fuel, as gasoline. Your losses, your frustrations, your misery, all those ideas. My dad used that as fuel to build the world of his dreams. Well, Rob's the same. He grew up in a very, very difficult home. His dad was a tough son of a bitch, and he grew up seeing a lot of stuff. And, he has made a life for himself. He's made a successful marriage. His kids are amazing kids. He's a very generous guy with a big, big heart, and he loved those hockey players that I work with. So I have a soft spot for guys that just don't use any excuse to just make to throw their life away. And when I see young people with every advantage throwing their lives away, I think of guys like Rob and guys like my dad, who are made of iron, who just had so much pride and character and integrity. They looked around and said, I don't know exactly what I want, but I sure as hell don't want this. And they went back and they built an actual life for themselves. They didn't use that as an excuse. They used it as fuel, as friggin' gasoline, chip on the shoulder right there. That's what they used it. I should fail, but I'm not going to. So the story about Rob is, he comes into my office about 4 weeks ago, and, he's delivering a package to Leanne. So he knocks on the door, he comes in. And then I miss talking to him because I don't own the team anymore. And we sit down and talk for a few minutes. And he says, Coach, he goes, something's been bothering me, and I don't know if I should tell you, but, he's an open book. He's always got this incredible smile on his face. He's one of those guys you want to be around, because every place he's at is the best place in the world, right? You go to a Raptors game, it's the best place in the world. You go to a restaurant, isn't this the best? One of those guys. And you'd think he's on something, even though he doesn't drink alcohol anymore. You would think that he does. Just one of those high energy, positive guys that it's contagious. So he sits down, he's got low energy for once. He's like, Michael, he goes, I don't know if I should tell you this, but it's been bothering me for a week. He said, I was driving my delivery van around the other day, 10:30 in the morning on Church Street in Perth. And he said, I'm driving along this street and I see this guy, he's about 24, 25 years old, and this girl, she's about 20, hard to tell, right? And he's got his hands around her neck, and he's literally choking her on the sidewalk. The two of them are standing up. He's got his hands around her neck, 10:30 in the morning, and he's choking her. And Rob can't believe what he's seeing, right? He's like, what the hell? So being the stand-up guy he is, he's not one of these guys who drives by and tries to forget what he saw. He's a guy who deals with things. And he pulls up his van beside them, and he gets out, and he's not sure what's happening, right? So he's like, he goes, hey, what's going on here? And, there's no response. The guy continues to choke the girl. And then he goes, listen, get your hands off of her. Get your hands off of her. And the guy's still, choking her and this kind of thought. So the kid who's doing that he turns around and he goes, fuck off, old man. And, Rob's one of these guys who it can go either way, right? He's a nice guy, but he's a tough guy. And he's come from a tough background, and he's always got the big smile. But in a certain situation, he's what I call a bunker guy. He's a guy you want to be in a bunker. He's got that level of loyalty. Like if I had to go to war with a guy and they gave me like 5 guys I could go to war with, he's at the top of the list. And that's a compliment. So the kid says this to him, and Rob's like, listen. And he's very experienced because of his bar background for 30 years. He doesn't want to get physically involved. He knows the best thing are words to talk a person, to move them out, to solve the problem without any physical confrontation. He's not a guy to get involved like that at all. He's mentally tough, not weak. He's not an emotionally drunk guy at all. He's solid. He doesn't lose his cool. When the kid says that, he says, listen. He says, take your hands off of her. We'll talk about this. Nobody's going to call the police, nothing like that. Whatever, just calm down and we'll figure this out. And once again, the kid says, mind your own business, old man. Basically tells him to drop dead and whatever. So Rob says, he goes, okay, because this is getting serious. He says, I'm going to ask you one more time to take your hands off of her, or this is going to go the opposite direction on you. So the kid turns and he says, he actually takes the hands off of the girl's throat and she's choking on the sidewalk. And he goes, fuck you, old man. And he comes towards Rob. And the guy, I said, how big? He says, oh, he's a scrote. Looked like he was some, drugged out guy, 25 years old. He's about 160 pounds soaking wet. Obviously he wasn't at work that day, that kid. But he comes running at Rob, and the first thing he does is he raises his fist, his right hand, Rob said, to throw a punch, right? Maybe his first punch of his life. And Rob, out of instinct, just steps forward and with his right hand and nails this guy right on the chin where he should, right? Here or here. And the kid drops like a sack of potatoes. When you drop like a sack of potatoes too. And Rob's like, okay. And the kid is like, he's down. He's on his butt. He's on his ass on the sidewalk. And the girl's watching this, right? He's like, listen. And he goes to help the guy up. He says, listen, we can talk this out. You can't be putting your hands on her, this kind of thing. Don't be trying to attack me as well. So the kid's getting his breath, and Rob's, offers him a hand. Always trying to, talk his way out of it. But he's dropped this kid once. So the kid gets up a second time, and he's, profanity, screw you, old man, none of your business, I'll kill you, making threats to his life and stuff. And he comes at Rob one more time. This kid... this dirt bag has one more run in him, right? So he goes towards Rob again, and he goes to attack Rob. And instead of Rob throwing a punch this time, Rob delivers the right hand just below the elbow, which is the ultimate knockout punch, right? In street fighting, below the elbow, that plane of bone there, it's over. It's, as Mike Tyson says, it's over. It's emergency room time. So he didn't even have to throw a second punch. The kid runs towards him, and he literally brought his elbow up like this and stepped into the kid, and he caught the kid in the side of the jaw. And this time the kid didn't fall backwards. He fell forwards. Boom, like a sack of potatoes. You don't have to count that one out. Rob hit him so square that he checked for a pulse. He literally put his 2 fingers. He wasn't upset. Rob wasn't upset. He wasn't sorry. He didn't regret anything. He was just like, you came at me twice. I fixed the problem. So he checked to make sure the kid's alive. Rob hits guys. That's just the way it was, right? So the guy's living. He's knocked out he's starting to come. And he says to the girl, what are you doing and stuff like this with this guy and the whole thing? And Rob has a daughter that age. And to make a long story short, she left. She walked back. I'm sure they lived right around there in some apartment or something. And Rob checked again, and the guy was, he's coming to, and he's all this kind of stuff. And then Rob got in his vehicle and he drove away. And he thought he would hear from the police. He thought these people might, tell a story and this. But to this day, it never. There was, so he's not worried about it anymore. But he was worried about them calling the police and getting him in trouble because he's a peaceful guy first. And he's at the age where he's like, I mean, he doesn't want to be getting involved by stuff like that. But because of his integrity, he couldn't just drive by. He couldn't drive by and watch that situation with that young man's hands around her neck. So he dealt with it. And I said to him when he's sitting in the chair, I said, you know, but I'm proud of you, brother. I mean, you stepped up. That was that reminded you of your daughter and what this young man was doing. And I said, you know what? Somebody should have done that to that young man maybe 15 or 20 years ago, and he wouldn't be doing those types of things now. But we talked a little bit about, you know, how a badass never, ever, ever places his hands on another human being unless ultimately necessary, and never, there are no exceptions when it comes to our queens, our women, anybody like that. And Rob's such a stand-up guy that he was, like, we talked about it for a while. And, you know, that kid that was involved in this, he probably grew up, one of two things happened. He either grew up in a family where he saw a lot of that and that was okay, or he was never ever fathered, you know, what I call underfathered. There was nobody there to teach him any different. So it was, or maybe it was both of those things. But regardless, you know, Rob solved that problem. And just the whole story reminded me of the fact that little eyes are watching us as we raise our children, as we raise our grandchildren, as we coach kids, whatever we're doing is, you know, how we speak to our queen, how do we speak to our best friend, how we treat our ride or die partner, and how critical it is that we teach our children that, you know, respect the way you respect your mother, the way you respect your father, the way you respect your other family members and the people in your world, so that they don't grow up thinking that, you know, something like that is okay, or thinking, you know, it's okay to put your hands on a woman or your wife or your queen or anything like that. And I was just like so critical. Like Emery watches, you know, how I speak to Krista. Emery watches how I, like when I hug Krista, when I kiss Krista, when we do family hugs, she listens. You know, the language I use if I'm upset, if I'm frustrated. These are the kinds of things that are so important. Like what are you modeling for the younger people in your world? I don't care if your kids are adults. You got grandkids, there's other people. Like, what are you modeling? And I just think that ultimate respect for women in our lives is so critical. Like, I've grown up around like iron women, like my wife Krista and my mom. I've been around so many, and Krista's late mom, Gerda Hardy. I've been around so many strong women that it's just, to me, it's second nature, where I just have ultimate respect for those people. And then Emery sees me giving ultimate respect to Grandma and to Krista and to Krista's mom when she was here. And you know, just that, you know, treating my ride or die partner like she is my best friend. A lot of you guys have taken on that saying, my best friend, secret weapon. But do you treat her like your best friend and secret weapon? Do you share all your frustrations and your anger, or do you just push it all back down? Do you have a few drinks at night instead of sitting with your wife and talking about, you know, what's truly bothering you? You don't have to be some crybaby, because nobody's attracted to neediness or anything like that. But I mean, if she's your ride and die partner, then she comes first. Like Krista in my life comes first, not my dad, not my mom, not friends, not my golf buddies, not my tennis buddies. My ride or die partner comes first. We decided 11 years, almost 12 years ago, that Krista and we decided to build this world together. So she's my equal partner. And we're not behind, not in front, beside. That's how we walk together. We're different people. We have different strengths and weaknesses, but that doesn't have we're a team. We are a team. Are you a true team with your ride or die partner, or is it just a slogan for you? Like, time is how you decide that. Do you invite your wife for walks on the weekend? Do you invite your wife on date nights? Do you invite your wife to sit at the end of the dock? Do you invite her to go golfing with you? Do you invite her on mini vacations? Like, is she truly your ride or die partner? Do your kids and grandchildren look and see you literally honoring your best friend in your life? Like, do your actions, are they congruent with your words, is what I'm saying. So I've chosen Krista as her ride and die partner, and she's chosen me. And we're like 15 years into this song and dance. And there's good days and bad days, and that's part and parcel. That's part of being an adult. Marriage is hard. Life is hard. And those expectations should be there. But our communication, that nothing comes between me and my queen. Like when something comes, like when you share something with your friends or a therapist or something like this, I talked about this in my last newsletter, you're chipping away at the foundation of your marriage. When you go to somebody outside of your marriage to whine or cry, you're chipping away. You're chipping away, and that's weakness. That's weakness. That's what that is. And instead, be honest. Clear is kind. A great marriage is clear as kind, and unclear is unkind. And, you need to be going to your queen with your challenges and your problems and your gripes and your complaints and your dreams, and sharing your plan and putting it together each and every day and each and every week, instead of having that stuff ever discussed outside your marriage. You either treat your wife like your ride or die queen, or you don't. But I don't care at the end of the day whether you're married, whether you're not married, whether you're alone or not alone. At the end of the day, I want to show my daughter every single day how a woman is to be treated. Because I didn't know this as a young father. I was taught this by some great badass fathers, that my daughter, Emery, will look at me as the example of how she should be treated by other men. I've never forgot that. That is one of the most powerful concepts that I've been taught since I've been a father, is that my daughter is watching every action. She's watching how I treat Krista. She's watching how I treat my mom, my sister, all the women in my life. She's watching to see how I treat them, and then she's going to expect to be treated like that by the men in her life. So I can't think of a more important job that I have than as a father, and how I treat my ride and die queen, how I treat my daughter, and how I treat other women. That's it for today. Make sure that you go home and you tell those incredible women in your life, your ride and die partner, your kids, how much they mean to you and how much you love them every damn day. And remember, immigration is open for my newsletter. You can sign up over the next few days at badassletter.com. Then it'll be closed again until the October edition. So if you missed out in August, you don't want to miss out in September, go to badassletter.com right now. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow. Until then, 2 words that change my life, 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.